Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel Drawing with Michael. It's been a hot minute since I've done a video just because it's been really busy in the studio, trying to get a lot of things done. The dynamic of what I do and how I facilitate and manage my art business has changed somewhat since the COVID-19 pandemic has reached into a lot of our lives, and I have been affected pretty significantly. I had one of my clients that dropped off the face of the planet, and then they came back, and then things, have really changed with respect to scheduling and artwork and everything else. So that being said, I've had to change the way I do things, which is, it is what it is. You roll with the punches. However, I have been working on a project for a little while, trying to really expand my capabilities as an artist. I talk a lot about this on my channel and how I'm always trying to kind of push that boundary and expand and make myself a viable resource in multiple areas of art, whether it be from traditional art to digital art to 3D sculpting to graphic design, package design, whatever it is, storyboarding, children's books, 2D animation, 3D animation, something that, I think we all should do as artists is really expand who we are and not just limit ourselves to our comfort zone, which, I really kind of got into a comfort zone over 10 years, and that's whenever I changed everything. So that being said, this morning I'm going to kind of give you an inside window into my process of creating a turnaround. If any of you guys follow me on social media, you've seen a couple posts in reference to the item that I'm working on currently for 3D, which is a character from Ghostbusters, Slimer. I did a exploratory sketch, and I'm going to show you that here in just a second. But also, I did a secondary sketch, and I posted it on Instagram. And I think that once I get involved in something, I kind of forget tape things and to get everything on record, and that's kind of the artist in me. I'm just I really get involved and immersed in exactly what I'm doing, and then I really forget about you guys, unfortunately. So what I'm going to show you here in a couple minutes or a couple seconds here is a side view of Slimer. Again, an exploratory sketch. I work primarily in 2D and traditional art, and then I move into digital art, and then from there I move into the 3D realm. But for this project, it's exactly what I did. I started out in 2D, so I did an exploratory sketch of Slimer. Here he is, just to kind of get a feel of him, and then I moved into the digital realm, and I started doing turns. So I'm going to show you guys here what I did really quick as I put the computer up. So we're in Photoshop today. So here is, let me adjust my keyboard really quick. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of, actually you guys can't see anything. Get rid of that, get rid of that. Here we go. So here we go. So this is my current project for Slimer. So here's the exploratory sketch right here that I did. I just did a really quick photo of him. And then I moved into a side view for the turns. Now, what you guys got to understand is, this isn't a company project. This isn't something that I'm doing for money. This is something that I'm doing for myself. So I literally can take a ton of time as long as I want to and really flesh out and explore the character to its greatest extent. The one thing that I don't want to do is I don't want to spend a ton of time on doing the artwork. I want to get the gesture right. I want to get the rendering right. I want to make sure that I get it where it needs to be in terms of character, and then I move on to the 3D stage, which is going to be next. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of invite you guys in. Go ahead and push this back a little bit in terms of, yeah, there we go, right about there. What I basically do, so just to get a gauge, I did my 3/4 view, and then I did this particular drawing based upon this 3/4 view. I also have visual reference that I've utilized. And you know, I keep it on a separate iPad. Let me see if I can show you guys really quick. Okay, so I got a little tiny iPad here, a little iPad mini that I have on my desk. It's an older model, but what I did was I went on Pinterest and I located some of the original sculpts from the movie back in 1983, 84, as well as some concept art that I thought was applicable. You know, people interpreting, this one's kind of funny. And here we are with some of the expressions, and these are all traditional. These aren't digital. These are original shots, and this is from the Tobin Spirit Guide. These are original shots from the model that was used way back in, here's a really good shot of him. 1984, 85, or whenever it came out. And this is one of the things that I didn't realize, he has a butt. So that was pretty fun. So I use these as guides to really get into the minutia of the character and see the forms and the volumes and the texture rendering and stuff like that. So that's where I landed with this drawing right here. So, if you look, I've got my basic sketch. So let's go ahead and get rid of some of these, not get rid of, but just hide some of these layers, these updated sketch layers. So here is my initial sketch, and you can see all the breaks that I had. So let's go ahead and get rid of the framing element. Okay. So I can move it around a little bit. Full screen mode, maybe. It's not allowed, look at that. It's not allowing me to get a full screen mode. All right, so let's launch Photoshop again. I use Photoshop and I have used Clip Studio Paint, and I like Clip Studio Paint a lot. But I use Photoshop because it's got some of the brushes in there that I really like. Clip Studio has really great brushes as well, but I think for what I like to do, let's go ahead and do this quick turn. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit F. Here we go. Must have been the program or something going on. So now I'm in full mode. So let's go back to the initial sketch here. So you can see all these breaks. Like there's a break right here. There's a break right here. There's a break right here and a break right here. And I call them breaks because I basically, there's a big one right here. I basically, once I got my initial sketch in, I went in and used my lasso tool, and I would do something like this, copy, paste. And then I would go in and I would change the positioning of the arm to better match what I wanted to do. So once I got the gesture and the rough sketch where I wanted it to be, I came back and I pushed this back to like 30%, 20 to 30%, right about there. And I started going in, actually, and I started going in and I started just doing a final line. And once I got my final line in, I started doing a little bit of shadowing, and that's where I am right now. So you can still see all of my construction lines underneath, so I'm going to get rid of those. Go ahead and get rid of that. And we're going to go back to my sketch line. And there's a brush that I like using. It's a free brush. I'm going to call it my favorite sketch brush. I'm on the ZBook today for those of you who are interested in what hardware I use. I had a couple people that asked me, what is my favorite computer that I work on? This is probably, in terms of power, usability, feel, let's go ahead and get that back. This is probably one of my faves. I like the size of it. I like the power. It's got an i7 processor with 32 gigs of RAM. It's got a great video card in it. And it uses Wacom technology as opposed to Intrig or anything that Surface is using. So it feels most like my my desktop machine, and it doesn't lag. It's really good. Battery life's borderline terrible because it's got a powerful processor. So you have to kind of push and pull with that. But I am basically, what I'll do in this particular stage is I will go in and I call it, it's not digital sculpting, it's not digital painting. What it is I'm putting in the shadows and the values, and I'm literally, as I go through this particular drawing, I'm feeling out the forms. I'm feeling how, let's go ahead and get rid of the taper. I'm feeling how each item feel. I keep saying feel because literally, whenever you sculpt something, you're holding it. You know, you hold it with your hands. So what I'm doing in this instance is, you see how I'm contouring my shadowing and feeling these forms, and you see it's blinking. Sorry about that. And I'm feeling how these forms, you know, on the page, they feel whenever I run these lines over them. And what I'm basically doing is, it's kind of like in my brain, I'm pre-sculpting the drawing. I'm pre-sculpting, not the drawing, I'm pre-sculpting the sculpture, you know. Whenever I actually drag this into ZBrush, I'll already have an understanding of the form language and how I want to go about creating a realistic sculpt. Um, I've been using ZBrush for a little while. I wouldn't be considered what you would call a uber professional when it comes to ZBrush. I have a very decent working knowledge of the printing process because I've created images and toys for for the professional market. So I've actually, I've done 3D sculpts for toys, setting them up for production. So I understand the production pipeline. Whenever you get into the minutia of creating images for games, and you get into the texture mapping, and you get into all of the things, and creating images for games, I haven't quite reached that level yet of expertise when it comes to ZBrush. Also, not hardline, but hard surface rendering. ZBrush was always one of those programs that did organic shapes really well because, again, you're sculpting. But what it's done recently, I think in the past 5 to 7 years, has really gotten pretty decent at doing hardline surface rendering and creating things that are absolutely beautiful. I mean, some of the images that I've seen created by artists are, I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And eventually I'll get there, but like I said, I'm still, I think, in the infancy learning process. Even though I've been using ZBrush since 2009. It's kind of ridiculous. Some guys have been using it for like 3 years and they're absolutely wonderful. It's because my first passion is going to be 2D art, and it always will be. And getting into 3D art has been a challenge for me. I'm a little bit older than your average. I don't want to say average Joe. I'm 47, which is still pretty young. But there's some guys that are in their early 20s that have been using ZBrush for like 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 1.5 years, and they're absolutely phenomenal at it. And I think that's fantastic. It's just my first passion is always going to be, 2D art. And I do enjoy 3D art, but the language is different, and also the way you treat images is different. I am a stronger 2D artist because I am also a 3D artist, modeler. But again, I still consider myself to be, in the learning process of this 3D world. And I think if you suddenly, you think you're the crap at everything, I think then what'll happen is you'll start resting on, your past experiences and your successes, and then suddenly you'll realize you've been doing stuff the same way for 3 years, and the way you do things is not the best way. So I always take a very hard look at what I do and make sure that I'm always have a positive attitude, and also, not prideful. I don't want to be prideful. That's something you don't ever want to be, especially in this art field. Never be prideful, guys and gals. So the settings that I have for my brush today, and I'm not going to get in here and I'm not going to render the whole thing because it'll take, I got at least an hour, maybe more, in doing, all the shadows. And I'm thinking again, I'm looking at this, and I keep going back to that reference I showed you. And I keep thinking, okay, here's a skin fold, and it comes around. I want to taper that, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to taper that. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to basically, I want all these creases to make sense because I'm using this as a visual reference whenever I actually do my 3D sculpt. So this will kind of be what I'm, kind of be my quote unquote Bible. So for whenever I do the 3D sculpt. Um, and I'll keep referencing this. And why I keep referencing this along with all the other images that I have is the fact that, I want it to be on model. I want it to look correct. I want it to look like Slimer. And, you ask yourself, well, why did you do Slimer? Well, first, I've been doing a lot of stuff for Universal Studios. I mean, a lot. Stuff that, really, I can't show any of it, which really sucks. I actually got snagged by one of the artists that I did stuff for, and then that got bled over into the product development section, and they were indicating that I was violating an NDA by showing produced products that were in the marketplace. I couldn't show them that I had done them, and that's part of the rules, and I don't want to be a rule breaker. So but I want to do stuff like this because it shows capability. It really broadens the spectrum of you as an artist, and it shows that you can do a wide range of things, and who knows, this particular image, once I get it finished and once I get the model done, you might have a company that looks at that and go, wow, he can do character stuff. He can match stuff that's already in the marketplace. Not to mention, I have other stuff that I've done through my own volition and my own characters. So then they're going to say, wow, he can not only can he do his own stuff, but he can do stuff realistically. He can do existing characters that are in the marketplace, and not only can he do them 3D model, he can also draw them. So it's a whole process of trying to show yourself valuable. That's one of the things as a professional artist you're always having to do. People ask me why I post so much. I try to post something every other day or every day on social media, whether it's an old sketch, whether it's a new sketch, really no matter what it is. It helps, you as an artist stay relevant. It shows that you're drawing, and it shows the creativity. I don't rely upon those things for work, but in the same accord, I do want to make sure that once somebody searches me on Google, then they can see that, wow, he's got a decent amount of work out there in the marketplace. And a lot of times I've had companies that'll Google search me and have no problem sending me a retainer because I have such a web presence. Okay, so basically what I'll do in this situation is I'll go ahead and render the whole thing, and then let's go ahead and save. And this is where the turn comes in. So I'm going to go ahead and hit image, canvas size, and you see it's pretty big. So we're going to go 35, and I want it to be over here. So I'm going to change the little direction to where it goes this direction to the left, another 10 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select all. I'm on this layer right here. Edit, fill. I use my little eyedropper. It automatically comes up. Foreground. Okay. And deselect. So now what I'm going to do, and this is, guys, this is something that I do, and you as an illustrator artist or character designer or whatever you are, you might do things completely different, and you know what? That's completely fine. This is the way that I do it. So what I like to do is, since I'm doing a turn, let's go ahead and hit F. Since I'm doing a turnaround, what you have to show is you have to show a left view, a right view, a front view, and a back view. And the reason for this is so as a 3D artist, you can go back and you can keep referencing these 2D images to really give you a better understanding of what things need to look like in 3D. If you just have this image right here, I'm not going to know whenever I completely flip it to the other side what this other arm, where this other arm is, because it's in a different position than this arm right here. what his back looks like, what his front looks like. So it's good, especially as an illustrator, an artist, and if you're going to be into toy design or game design, having the ability to do turns is absolutely integral in your position as as a resource. Okay, so let's go ahead. What I do, see, since I'm on my other machine here. Whoops. Let's go ahead and stretch you out all the way across. Okay. Okay, so there are indications. So this would be obviously the top of the head. What I like to do is I like to go ahead as my computer, and this would be the bottom. Then I start getting into markers. So this would be the center part of his eye, the bottom part of his nose, the bottom part of his jaw, the bottom lip. Maybe this is part of the elbow and where the hand is. Okay, so now go ahead and push these all the way to the back. I'm going to put these on a transparency so they're not so prevalent. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another layer. And this sets me up. Go ahead and let's do a darker gray. And this sets me up for doing my turns. So I've got my favorite brush here. I'm going to go ahead and turn on symmetry, vertical symmetry. We're going to come over here. We're going to move this to right about here. Hit a check mark. And so with symmetry, whatever I do on one side is going to come and happen on the other side. Okay. So basic shape of Slimer. See, this is where having a really big monitor helps out, because then you can look at your visual reference and then you can modify and you can draw, and do your turns. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all of these off and I'm going to do a really rough sketch. So I'm going to turn the taper on. I've got my flow. So let's go ahead and hit all of these. And what this is going to do, make sure that I've got the right layer on. I have drawn on the wrong layer through a large portion of my career. And so okay, so again, I've got this line that comes across, and this line is the center part of where his eyes are. So I've got to remember that, okay? And his head's kind of flat, okay? And it comes around, and these are rounded, so it's going to really come out and it goes all the way to the bottom. And I'm always referencing the drawing based upon these lines. So then I know this tapers comes in, and then he kind of fans out like this. And based upon the other drawing that I showed you guys, that 3/4 view, that exploratory drawing, I know, and why is my computer so slow? It's probably because the brush is too big. What happens with the ZBook, unfortunately, is whenever you have a textured brush like this one is, so if I were to switch it to say, let's do the general brushes, let's do high pressure, round size here, okay. See, there's no lag at all. So I'll go ahead and use this brush instead, just to make sure that I have enough rhythm and flow here. Yeah, I got the blinking. Okay, so we'll come here. See, the thing is even though I've got this item right here, I can't do it in symmetry. So I just want to get the basic design of where stuff is. So here's his nose. Okay, here's the center of his eye. I've got this big split right here. So he's got these eyebrows come up. Okay, actually it comes down. It goes like this. right? We've got his nose here, and he's got these huge, just this whole mass right here comes up, right here, and then it comes down. Okay, and here's the top right here, comes over, and literally, it's just I'm drawing, I'm having fun. Okay, so here's the right here is the very top. Not the top, here's the top, so I can't see the top, so that's the bottom, so it's going to come around like this. And I know his mouth, it actually comes out like this, because I did that 3/4 study, and that's actually too high. Okay, so it comes up. Here's the very top of his lip. Comes down. Okay. His teeth. There's the top. And so that's wrong. So what happens is you start doing comparative placement. Okay. Where stuff is, and what you're going to find out is where you think something is, it really isn't. Because whenever you're doing turns, you have to realize that you know, I got sunshine coming in my face here, which is good. We've had a lot of rain. What's happening basically is you're trying to place things without seeing them in real space. And honestly, it's not easy, right? To me, the first time I can't remember the first time I did turns. Here's the very center of his eye. Comes up. I can't remember. What did I do? It was the first time I did turns. I have to think about that. There we go. And again, you guys, this is not a final. This is literally me. It's like a first pass. I'll play with this. I could play with this for 2 hours, messing around with the placement of stuff, because I keep going back and forth, and I'll look at this and I'll come back here, then I'll look at this and I'll come back here. And it's important that you know that it is a process. It is a process of creating something that you can't see. So here's the bottom. So then we come to the top. Here's the top. I remember there was an exercise that I did back when I was in college, and it wasn't even when I was at Ringling. It was when I was at community college, and I had an awesome artist for teachers. His name was Steve Marsh, and I had him for a couple of years, and then he ended up passing away, unfortunately. But one of the things that he did, he was kind of like the king of his department. And one of the things that he did was really cool. He would have you look at a figure from one position, and then he would have you draw it from another position. And this really was foreign. Is like foreign language. I was already having issues with drawing in general, because drawing is hard, or at least it is for me. And to have this new way of thinking thrust upon me, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And it was a challenge, right? But what it taught me was thinking three-dimensionally, one, and it also taught me how to think, using forms and different perspectives. And he was old school, but he was also really good at what he did. So, okay. And I can't remember if I ended up using that exercise whenever I taught. Okay. So you can see in terms of sizing, this is a little bit too big. He's a little bit too wide, but overall placement of where stuff is and where it needs to go and be, I think we're right on the cusp of where we need to be. So let's go ahead, his shoulder elements. We can rough those in very, very briefly, right? Okay, this comes down. Okay, and these turnarounds will be used for animators. They'll be used for 3D sculptors, game developers, to really get a gauge and understand what things need to look like and stay on model to come out down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it on time lapse, just so you guys can see the process. And I don't want to sit here and make this a 2.5 long, 3 hour long video, because I do things in chunks and small places. So basically, after I get the drawing, let's say I got the drawing completely done, okay, or at least the rough end, I'll come back and I'll do the same thing that I did with the side view. I'll come back and I'll just start really finalizing what I want the drawing to look like. I'll come back and this will come down around. Come around here, and I'll literally just start figuring out what makes sense, where it needs to be, making sure it's on model, and positioning it to where at the end of the day, once I get this particular view finished, getting the back done, and I already have the 3/4 semi done, so that'll give me a nice base to where I want stuff to live. What I am going to do, and once I get all of these turns done and semi-rendered, I'll give you guys just a view of what I'll be doing. And once I get everything set up, I will start ZBrush, and I'll start, roughing in and doing a rough sketch of Slimer. And then you guys can see the process that I use to create a 3D model. And once I get that completely finished, I thought about doing a small scene in ZBrush and have him, maybe he's outside, maybe he's near a trash can, maybe here, he's eating a hot dog. I don't know what he's doing. I haven't figured that out yet. So that's kind of my process of creating a turnaround. Very simplified. Again, this process is going to be different for everybody. I think, as an artist, we all have our own ways of doing things. So, take my method as something that I have narrowed down, and it's constantly changing, constantly improving, constantly evolving into something that works for me. I'm just showing you the way that I do it. All artists are going to say that, but it is a reality. Some people do turns a different way. And some people skip a process. Maybe they have just a front view and a 3/4 view, and they go right into ZBrush or whatever modeling program that you use. This particular method works well for me, and it is something that I've seen as a standard in other, not only in toy design, but also character design and game design. A lot of them will do these turns, and it is something and a skill that is needed. And as a 2D artist, it's something that I'm constantly developing and making sure that I know what I'm doing. So anyway, thank you guys for visiting the channel. Like and subscribe. Please share, like, subscribe, and share. Hit that notification bell. And anytime that I post a video, I don't post a video just to post it. I post it because I want you to find something out about either who I am as an artist or something that's in the professional field that I think is relevant for you guys to learn. So thank you guys once again, and we'll see you next time.